Yeah, thanks very much. And I was really heartened to hear the words of Lord Inglewood and Joe there. I think that was a real plea from the heart of Cumbria, actually. Mr. Whitaker, look, there are a lot of people we know in Cumbria who are very unhappy about the proposed closure, and they're unhappy in part, I think, because they feel that Askham Bryan has played something of a three-card trick on them by getting round all the terms of that original prospectus. Now, I don't want to spend too much time raking over the history, why the University of Cumbria agreed to an occupancy agreement to pay Askham Bryan 3.4 million over the next 3 years for the right to use Newton Rigg's premises, when the original heads of terms said the university would be able to share the usage of the assets for a fee of £1, or how the University of Cumbria ended up transferring those assets to you for the cash sum of 636,000, as recorded on page 2 of the transfer agreement, when they paid over 9 million for them. I want us to focus about not the things that are rankling there, because people feel that the goalposts were moved. I want to focus on this particular issue of the asset deed. And I'd like, if you can, please, to ask you to put people's minds at rest about that, because Cumbria County Council originally insisted upon the asset deed to ensure that the college and all its lands could not be sold off, and that the facilities had to remain for further education and training purposes into the future. And that asset deed was passed on from UCLan to the University of Cumbria, and it was in the original prospectus for the sale in 2011. At clause 432, it states the new provider will also be expected to enter into a new asset deed with the chief executive to ensure that the FE assets transferred continue to be used for further education and training purposes in the future. But it didn't happen, did it? After Askham Bryan became the preferred bidder, that new asset deed was abandoned. In fact, the original deed would have simply continued in force. So a new deed probably wasn't necessary, although it might have been good legal practice. So my question is this: why didn't it happen? How did you nullify that asset deed, and why?
Yeah.
Thank you, Barry, for your question. I'll come to answer the question. I just on the previous question, I think it's really important to state that the importance of continued land-based education in Cumbria. I absolutely agree with that. So we're not in a position where we're saying there should be continuation of land-based education in Cumbria, and that is something that through the FE Commissioner's report and the recommendations that we're working with other providers to ensure that that happens. With regard to the asset deed, we're talking about activity that occurred in 2011, way before my employment with the college, and indeed the transfer between UCLan and the University of Cumbria in 2007. So I really can't comment on what happened at that time, because I was not there and I was not involved in those processes. What I can do is I can confirm that we have had definitive legal opinion that those incumbencies were removed at that point of transfer in 2011. I think.
How did you do that, Tim? How did the college actually?
As I said, we're talking many years before I was employed by the college.
Yes, but you've read the papers like I have.